Welcome back to Build a Skatepark. We are still using SketchUp, and we're going to create some new features today. Some of it is review. Today we're going to do a bank, and then we're going to do a rail that goes down the bank. So let's get started. See if you remember how to build a bank. This time we're going to press L, start at the center point origin. Let's say our bank's going to be, I don't know, let's make it pretty big. So it's like 10 foot maybe. That's good. We don't want to make it too high. So let's start with, say, 4. I like 4 foot. 4 foot is a good size. 3 is actually better, and we're just making a triangle. This is simple. Snap down, and there's our bank. But not completely. Still need to do the little curved edge at the bottom, if you remember that. So let's start by triple clicking our triangle, right click, make a group. Remember why? We do this so when you draw something next to it, they don't stick. The vertices and the lines don't stick and cause additional problems. Let's go ahead and create our curve. One thing is important is to angle your camera so you can do a nice curve. So let's start by drawing a line. Normally I go about 1 foot, and then we press A on the keyboard. We're going to snap to the end of this 1 foot. Now if I look at, I forgot to look at how many vertices or how many angles it's going to have. So I'm going to hit escape real quick. And in this case you can't just press A again because it won't show you down here in the bottom right. Get rid of this guy. So what I do is I press space and then A, and now it shows 12. 12 is good, it's a little too many, but let's do 10. Still seems like a little too many, but for concept, not a big deal. So as long as your curve doesn't go below, hey, what happened there? Doesn't go below this line. You don't want it to go below the ground level. You want it to be a smooth transition. So I'm not measuring this, just eyeballing it. And then we're going to draw one more line. Actually, we don't need to draw that line. So let's use our camera to kind of curve around. Okay, it looks pretty good. What we're going to do now is explode because we want to combine these 2 lines that we created to this face, this triangle. So right click, explode. Why are we going to do that? Because when we click on this line here, it has now created a vertice or a split. And when you press delete on the keyboard, yes, it gets rid of your face, but now you have your nice curve to have a smooth transition up to your bank. And you're going to ask, how do I fill this in? Well, I found the quickest way is just to draw a line from one point, snap it anywhere to another point, and it automatically fills the entire thing in. That's a quick way, and then simply just go and delete that line. Now make sure only to click on the line. If you click on a face, it deletes the face. So you can Control Z to undo that. Click on that line, one single click and let go. In most cases, anything you do in SketchUp is a single click and let go of the mouse. Just click, let go. Now we're going to triple click. Make sure you see blue lines all around. I know this one at the bottom is hard to see because it's combining green and blue, but it is highlighted. Make a group. Now technically you don't have to do the group yet, but sometimes I do it out of habit. Let's double click to go inside our group. Here's our bounding box, so it means you're inside the group. Press P, click on that face, and you can pull any direction you want. I prefer away from the camera. Let's make it 10 feet is good. It's probably a little too wide, but you know, it's for a skate park, it's got to be big. Let's pan around, take a look. Looks good. Plenty wide. You probably have 2 rails or a hub on a rail. Let's triple click the entire object. Right click. Oh wait, don't need to create a group because guess what? It is already a group. So that's one way to edit an existing group. You can double click to go in, make your changes, and if you click away from the bounding box, there you go. There's your group. So now the difficult part. We want to create a rail that follows this edge. Because let's say if it's part of a pyramid. Snap here. For example, you want to be able to come across this pyramid and hit that wedge on the way down, right? Hit that rail, not the wedge. Or on the way up. So what I like to do is start with a line, and I don't start here at the bottom because there is a curve and it messes up your angle. Start right here at this endpoint in the group. And see how where I clicked? I'm going to match or snap to the endpoint at the end of the group there. Now of course, you really can't see it. It's kind of bolded, but I know it's there. If I click on it, it's the only line that turns blue. Now why do we start there? Because that's the angle of the rail we're going to create. Now let's create the height of the rail. I think 2 foot's good. Sometimes it's a little high, but remember, if you're coming off the top of a pyramid, you're not going to hit the rail at the very top. You're going to hit the rail in the middle. So let's go 2 feet. And what we're doing now is just creating a basic shape to represent that rail, and then we'll create the 3D object. Second point, we want to just roll your mouse over, don't click, and see how it follows the vertical axis. Sometimes SketchUp is really good about matching the existing angle, but it's not doing it right now. Sometimes it'll just snap to the angle and it's not. So hit escape, press space, and we're gonna, oh no, press M. We're gonna copy this highlighted line. So make sure that it's very important that your mouse is over a snapped point on that line, and we're gonna hold down Control and click and let go. Now see how I have this line selected? You can let go of Control. We're gonna snap it to the top. There's probably 10 other ways to do this, but on the fly, this is very simple. See how I just drew another line and created a face? There we go. So there's the height of our rail. So now we can use these lines later to be the braces or the vertical pieces that hold up that rail. But for now, this is concept, and it's like a sketchbook. We're just sketching out the shape and the height of the rail, but notice how it follows perfectly on our wedge, on our ledge. Wedge, ledge, bank, on our bank. Okay? So let's triple click that, make it a group. And now what we can do is copy this top line. So do L for line, snap at the bottom, snap at the top, and now we're going to go over. I'm going to go towards the ramp. And how wide is the rail? Let's say it's, I don't know, 0.25, I think it's 3 inches. It's not bad. Right? Well, if I roll my mouse over this other endpoint, let's see if it'll match. It has to follow that red. It's kind of hard to follow the red axis because we're too far away. It's not. I'm actually surprised. Usually it'll highlight the exact angle. So that means it's forcing me to copy again. So click on this top line that we just created. It should turn blue. M for move. Control to copy. And notice there's a little plus there. That means copy. Make sure you click on the endpoint and see how I copied it. I'm going to snap to the other side. There we go. L again, and we're just going to close that shape. That looks fine. Now let's see, can we press and pull this? Absolutely. So our goal is to press and pull this. We want it to be fairly thin, like a rail would be. So let's try 0.1. That looks good to me. Right? That should hold a skateboard. Like a 150-pound guy, right? Yeah, we don't know. This is not a simulation. Okay. One thing I have not mentioned in previous tutorials is you should always save as you go. There is an autosave built in. I usually turn it off because a lot of times you're in the middle of something and it saves and it cancels the command you're currently in. I prefer to save it myself, but if you don't have that muscle memory, please just Control S will save it every time. And if you're on Mac, I think it's Command S. So there's the top of our rail. What do we want to do next? We want to triple click. There we go. Right click, make a group. Why do we always do that? Because our elements need to be separated. We can always combine them later or explode them later, but it's just easier to work and not combine all of your drawing elements as you're sketching out. So now we're going to draw a line from the middle. Sorry, I didn't even show you the midpoint. So if you do L, you should be able to find the midpoint of any side of this plane. And it'll say midpoint in group, or midpoint. And what you're going to do is go straight down, and I want you to hold the shift button so it locks. And notice what it does, it locks right to where we want to go. I'm going to snap there to the corner. Good? Now we have to make that three-dimensional. Fairly simple, we'll do it the same way we did the other ones. So in this case, I'm going to hold shift to snap it to that red axis. I want it to snap to this corner because we're going to fulfill, we're making a rectangle, we're going to fulfill it. And there we go. And you know, when I pull this out, it's going to have a little gap, and we can fix that later. Press and pull is a fancy tool. Press P. Let's pull this guy out. We're going to do maybe 0.1 again. And that's good for a post. But like I said, there is a little gap there. Zoom in. One thing I have not mentioned in the past is when you zoom, wherever your mouse is where you're going to zoom. So if I put my mouse over here, see the direction it's zooming? It's also slowing down because there's nothing to zoom in on. It knows when the mouse is over an object. When I zoom on this object, see how it goes directly where the mouse is? If I go down here, it zooms down. This is very, very important to get used to because it allows you to be more productive and to manage your objects and your camera angles better. So same thing when you're rotating the camera. If I put my mouse over here on the right, it's going to rotate it from the right. If I mouse on the left, it's going to rotate from the left. If I put it in the middle, it's going to rotate around the middle. Well, they kind of look the same, but it's because it's not an extreme angle. Anyways, I'm going to cheat a little. To close this gap, I'm just going to press and pull it up and hide it inside, like that. Of course, the right way to do it would be to select it, change our angle, and we're going to do what's called a rotation. So press Q, and it gives you a compass. Red compass means you're on the red axis, and that's what we want because that's the side of this object. It's very critical that you have the right color compass selected, otherwise you'll rotate it in the wrong direction like this. See how it's twisting? We don't want that. So make sure to use the red compass. You're going to click once on this corner, and there's always a second click because we're starting. This is first click where you start the rotation, second click for the rotation. Well, not where you start, where you center rotation, and then the second click is where you start. We're going to snap. But you notice something wrong when we do this? It's actually changing the width of our post. Not a big deal. You're not really going to see it. But we could go with that. I actually like that better. We could do it to the bottom. As you know, it's sinking in. But again, this is concept. Not every single little thing has to be perfect. Let's triple click. Make it a group. Press M to move. We're going to center this guy. So is that the midpoint of the rail at the top or the post? You see the difference? Midpoint. Midpoint. It's actually the midpoint of the post. That's what we want. So first click is where you want to start your move. Second click is where you want to move it to. That looks nice, right? You see that little gap in the blue line? That's kind of like your bounding box of your group. That's because we changed the width. That's where it used to be when we created the rectangle, but we changed the width by doing the rotation of the top face. So if you don't want to deal with that, just use press and pull, hide a little bit, not a big deal. Alright, now for a fancy trick. First of all, we don't want this right at the edge. So you have two options. One is to go into this top group, pull it down. Not a bad option. Let's do it 1 foot. Right? At the same time, you don't want it sticking so far out that they build it exactly like that in construction, because this end, there's a chance someone could hit it so hard with a bike trying to slide it that it could bend or create a wrinkle because it's just metal. Hopefully they make it out of wrought iron because that is hardened steel and it's very strong. So if you're worried about that for a concept, let's pull it back just a little bit. That's probably good. or you can move the post. So let's stick with what we have now. I'm going to show you how to do a multiple copy. So press M. We want the copies to follow this angle, because that's the angle our rail follows. It's already centered. We just need more than one. And you can do the math in your head and figure out how many do we need. I like to just guess. You know, you don't need a whole lot of posts for a rail this short. You could probably have 3, maybe get away with 4. So what you want to do is hold Control, and we're going to start anywhere you can eyeball it. I like to eyeball and just kind of look at the distance down at the bottom right. 2 feet is good. And you click again, and don't do anything else. The next thing you want to do is type in the number of how many. So let's do 4x. See how it types 4x in the bottom right? Press enter. There you go. Usually I say bam. Bam, there you go. Now notice the rail is a little too high here at the top. But see how they're all centered perfectly? It's quick, pretty easy once you get the basics down. Now this one we have a choice. We could pull it down a little bit, because no one's ever going to really hit it that high. I mean, some guys can. Some guys can ollie over the top of the beginning of the rail. It's good to have a gap. 2 feet's good. Now we're going to select all of it. We have a couple of choices. We can go select, and notice how it missed a few. Hold shift, select by clicking again, click again. Our entire rail is now selected. Remember, there's separate groups inside the rail. Let's right click. We're going to make a new group. Now if you remember from episode 1, I showed you how to create components. This rail could easily be a component that you can use later for any type of need that you have. I'm going to center this rail, so press M, click at the midpoint, hold shift to lock it into that red axis, and then move your mouse down to the middle of the bank and look for center. Usually it's that green midpoint, is a green dot. It's not always green. There it is. Now we have a rail, we have a bank. You can make this whole thing a component if you wish. And this way you can add it to any element in your skate park. If you want to get rid of this line on your bank, double click in the group. Click once. Now here's the hard part, is right clicking. I think there's another option, maybe up here, edit. Hide, yeah, if you don't want to try to right click it. Sometimes it's hard to right click a single line like that. So there you go. Now we can simply use M, or you can do Control Z, Control V, copy paste. Right click, flip along, I think it's green, yeah. Oh yeah. That looks fun. Now if you want to do it 4-way, that's a whole different ball game. You don't have a wedge coming down this way. I'm not going to do that today, but there's a rail. This rail could easily be put over stairs. Stairs aren't as easy as you think they would be, but we'll do stairs in another tutorial. So enjoy making your skate parks, work with different heights. Remember, you can easily select this, do scale. This is not the proper way to scale things, but if you're in a hurry, you can easily just go like that. Most people won't even notice that you squashed the height of this rail. It still looks pretty good. You could always do it this way. I notice I went into 2 groups there. Actually I didn't. We didn't make this a group, did we? So let's say you made this entire thing a group. Double click. Here's the bounding box of the first group. And remember, these are groups inside. They're all individual objects we can move individually, color individually, texture individually. So I'll double click on your bank, single click on the top line, press M. And you can click anywhere. I prefer on the edge, and you can move it down that way. The only problem with this is now the angle of your rail is not going to match the angle You notice how I got out of that group? In a group, you click out of this bounding box, but stay inside this bounding box, and we're still in that group. Now you can easily press M, just click anywhere, make sure it's on the blue axis. There you go. But look at it from the side. It's not a huge deal, but it's not the same angle. Depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. And yes, sometimes it'll poke through the bottom. But these are those small editing tips that you can use for just tidying up and making clever new objects or obstacles in your skate park. Start with something simple and start making small changes. Anything's possible. That's what makes SketchUp so much fun. It's quick, it's 3D, you can think of all angles, and you can create new ideas that no one has ever thought of. Alright, have fun creating your skate park.